What can I say? I said to you earlier, Iris House was about family, and I invited you all to become part of our family. And I'm hoping that the gentleman I'm about to introduce is the newest member of the Iris House family. An inspiring person, an amazing person, someone who I think you all know who Oliver is. Mr. Mmusi Maimane, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. I feel like I should be saying good morning. The rate we're going, people might be wondering why. I've had quite a day today, but you might be, I often like to clarify up front to people why we show up so late, because it's not. It is a black thing. I think it's helpful for you to look at that up front. People say, that guy needs the DA, this, that, so we end up people saying, hey, we're not sure about this race. I think I must always help people and clarify that up front. But I have had quite a bit of a day. I tragically today had to go and attend a funeral of a colleague which had died as a result of being elected as a public rep in the Northern Cape. So I was then stuck having to fly into the Northern Cape, and then we had to find transport means because no one goes to the Northern Cape. And no airline really goes there, so we had to try and figure out our way to make our way back to Cape Town, and along the way I've had to pick up a number of drugs just to be here. So if this doesn't go well, so you might want to consider the invitation subsequent to my being heavily drugged. But ladies and gentlemen, it for me is, and I know for Natalie and I, a great privilege to have been invited. When Tracy sent me an invitation and said to me, would you like to come to an evening like this one? The question for us was never, should we do it or shouldn't we? It was, if we could do it, we must do it. And it's part of the message I want to leave with you tonight, that if you can do it, I think we must do it. Because South Africa is a beautiful country. It's a beautiful nation. It's made up of great people like yourselves and great people like Sue and so many others. And it's because of who we are as a nation that often, when I look at the work that so many great South Africans do, remind me always how proud I am to be South African. I know the great difficulties in some ways of raising my own 2 kids. And it is tough. My son is an EFF member. I've made that and he's a handful to raise at home. But furthermore, my godchild is a Down syndrome child. And so the story intersects for me today, not because there's anything about that we could benefit from it. It's just because as a nation, there comes a point where we have to answer the fundamental question, how do we look after those who are most vulnerable? And I think the words that Helen Ziller put forward, which is to say that the government can't do it alone, I think ring true in so many contexts. And in this particular context, it's so real. I mean, you may not know my own story, but in many ways, the reason I'm here today is because when I finished school, I had nothing else to do. I thought I'll volunteer and lived and worked in a home similar to the work that you do. And so I spent quite a bit of time engaging kids who face some great challenges themselves. And it became all too real for me how much, at one level, we could spend in a government function an extraordinary amount of money entertaining people we hardly will ever see. Or we could invest in institutions such as this one who do such profound work to change someone else's life. And I'll never forget, I attended the funeral of one little boy called Apiwe. Apiwe's mother was HIV positive, and so as a result, it was way before drugs and mother-to-child transfusion became such an easy access, and so he had HIV. And when I stood by the graveside, I realized that even though that home had given everything that they could and government had helped them as much as they could, but I knew inherently that as a society we could do much more Because it stopped saying much about Apiwa's life, it said everything about us. And you know, when I look at it, I am convinced more and more that the work that Sue and so many others of our volunteers do is not only awe-inspiring, but is deeply, deeply significant for what our country needs at a time such as this one. I know that without doubt, so many lives get left behind, and what foundations such as this one do aren't only just the right thing to do, but they're a significant contribution to put towards society. So let me first of all say that to Sue and your team, because in a different context I had an opportunity to watch close up at hand the challenges that you go through, and when I see a story about a Baki, I'm all too aware of what it means, actually. I know it all too well because I've seen that movie. And I want to say to you, you become the unsung heroes of our country. And I want it personally, and certainly on behalf of Natalie and I, and certainly on behalf of the DIA and all the other partners that we work with, I just wanted to say thank you to you. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for what you do for society. Because I know somewhere in there is something that significantly will impact our country for the better. So thank you very much. You can give a... I think in reflection to why we're here also tonight is, I think it's without doubt that someone once reminded me of the fact that the true test of generosity is to give without expectation or repayment, or certainly any thanks. And so giving freely with an open heart to children who you may never know the extent of your gift is truly the most generous act we can put together. And I think this is what indeed it means to, in many ways, be in public service, to serve the least in our society. Nelson Mandela once said that in fact what counts in life is not the mere fact that we've lived, it is what difference we've made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. So this team will be the first to tell you that for many of them, I mean, I'm sure Sue earns an exorbitant salary, I'm sure she'll tell you. But they do to enrich other people's lives beyond their own measure. Beyond, it's not the length of the life that we live, it's I suppose the contribution we make. And the team that leads at Iris House, in fact, contributes to society, and this is a team that puts their values into action. And the longer I'm involved in public service, the more I realize that, you know, sometimes I'll tell you a sideline story. I wasn't meant to tell you this, but I'll tell you anyways, because I get this phone call the other day from someone. It says to me, Mr. Maimane, we wanted to tell you the good news. You have been nominated for South African of the Year. Oh, that's nice. I won't tell you by who, because that's what even complicates the story even more. But I put down the phone and I thought to myself, to what reason would have you nominated as South African of the Year? I just act in a particular role and work with a particular team. I think, to be frank, if we're willing to look at it, it's the people who spend their day in, day out, contributing to people. I might get some accolades somewhere. It's bizarre that they give accolades to politicians. Those are the worst people to give accolades to. But it's South Africans like Sue and so many who contribute to society, who should be the heroes we reflect on, who should be the people we nominate as South Africans of the Year. Because they are at the coalface of building the society we want to see. They're at the coalface of making sure someone else's future is put together. They are at the coalface of embracing a sense of generosity, a sense of active citizenship. They are the ones who are turning their values into a form of action. And I think those are the people we should celebrate, and those are the people we should get behind, because those are the people who live their lives with their arms wide open. So fellow South Africans, I think what this election, or maybe this time in our country, has taught me is that despite the tailwinds or the difficulties we face, or the headwinds we face as a society, South Africans always will choose hope over fear. That they'll choose a better tomorrow in some way, and we must all, if we can, invest into that tomorrow. We as a country can choose a different tomorrow, and there are people who contribute to that tomorrow and who work towards contributing towards that. And I think if we really then honor the principle of democracy, it's that every single citizen has equal value. And we can make all the impact that we can into that value. And every individual can make a difference, and every life in fact does count. If we don't uphold those principles, or certainly create a society that supports those principles, we undermine the very essence of who we are as a humanity and undo the very work of our democratic project. So, I can think about my own niece, who has the loving support of our family. And we spend a lot of time just looking after her and trying to make sure that if she needs medical help, we can get her medical help. If she needs schooling, we can get her schooling. And I know what it's like firsthand for her to experience public hospital, to experience all the difficulties that go with that. And I knew back then that at least we still have some infrastructure around her. But I can't count how many kids don't have the same infrastructure. It is indeed within each one of our hands. So I think if I was to ask you to do anything today, is that I'm sure we all can make a contribution, maybe without expectation, because I think that's the best form of generosity. Not even without thanks. When I read up on the theme of tonight, they said it's the Great Gatsby. I said, cheap. Hey, I don't even know what that is. When I arrived, because my wife told me I must arrive. So she's looking great. That's my wife, Nancy, over there. But we all, in many ways, can make just that bit more contribution. Just that little bit more. So Sue, I want to accept your invitation, and you need to know that with us you'll find South Africans who genuinely can, if we can in any way assist and make a contribution to this great cause, we'll certainly do it. Because I think it's people like you who are the true South Africans of the year, it's your team. And it's the fact that the work that you do builds a society we want to see. And so I want to invite all of us who are here today, that we can all stand and say, that sounds like a good thing. But we also can put our values into action and support the vulnerable children of Ida's house in any way that we can. And I know that the significance of our contributions may never be measured, perhaps, and maybe some of us may never be able to see it. As I'm reminded always of a story of someone who once said to me, he said, if you take an apple, any idiot can tell you how many seeds are in that apple. But it takes an incredible sense of generosity to expect that, because none of us will know out of the seeds in that apple how many more trees will come out of it. Which asks us to invest into it tomorrow. Because just like you, I actually wake up every day ever more hopeful about this country, believing that this country can become a great nation, and we can ensure that even the most vulnerable in our nation can experience the true fruit of freedom. And tonight, if it makes it in any way possible for us to do so, I think we must, because we can, and we can turn our values into action. I thank you very much.